Once again, you've saved my psyche, Eric Boehlert. On fire on Twitter. You just said there's only one story regarding gun violence in the U.S. The GOP opposes all attempts to fix the problem. Period. Right?
Yeah, that's what I just posted this morning. It's the only gun reform story that matters is GOP obstruction. Look, the press has gotten better kind of covering, these mass murders and not kind of shunning them away for 20 or 30 minutes, but they're not putting it in context. There's this feeling like, there's just kind of this passive coverage, like we can't fix it. Nothing will get done. Why can't we pass the laws? It's simple and easy why we can't pass the laws. It's the Republican Party. They have this just absolute obsession with not only protecting gun rights, but flooding the country with guns by loosening restrictions. You can carry a gun into grocery stores in half this country, and not just guns, assault weapons. Yeah. So they are the reason we have this epidemic. They are the reason the government can't do anything to fix this plague. But you see all these stories about how Congress doesn't do anything, how there's gridlock, and the press just does not want to put a fine point on this. The Republican Party is getting people killed every day in this country.
Is it history when it's only, I don't know how many years ago, but thank you for a little history lesson on Twitter. You said, reminder, Bill Clinton signed a bill that outlawed assault weapons in this country. It seems inconceivable today. George W. Bush let that ban expire. You said basically the rigged Florida recount in 2000 and the Supreme Court stopping the vote counting is why we have assault weapons plague in this country today. I mean, elections have consequences, as you say.
Yeah,
it's and now just real quick, your other one in terms of the press, you said in the wake of endless gun rampages in the last 3 weeks, how many Republicans block all gun reform headlines have you seen? And that should be the only headline. Yeah.
It should be absolutely the only headline. Look, I have kids who are 20 years old. It's inconceivable to them that assault weapons were ever banned in this country. Yeah, and we did it for 10 years. And guess what happened? We saw an impact and effect. And the other thing I point out in my column this morning, there's no context in terms of the Republicans' radical obstruction. In that crime bill, 42 House Republicans voted in favor of banning assault weapons in this country. Can you imagine today?
Yeah.
You can't get one. In 1999, something like 30 Republican senators voted for a background check bill, check bill. Inconceivable today. So, we have this idea, well, Republicans have always been opposed to gun safety laws. No, they haven't. This has been a radical change in 25 years, and all that context just gets evaporated when the press tries to cover this story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's almost like it's on every single issue. Thank you for just knocking them down one at a time. I just mentioned that Bill Barr was able to spin and just bury the Mueller report after what we've just learned. And you just said, reminder, the New York Times bought the Barr spin from day one and said the Mueller report gave Trump's reelection a boost. That was the journalism about that. When, I feel like for most of us, this was not shocking news. We know exactly what Manafort did with the polling data and why, right? It's just, it is like, as you said at the time, the way the media covered it was part of the problem, right?
Oh my gosh, that was, if you had to pick 5 low points of the entire Trump presidency in terms of the press coverage, the Mueller report has to be in the top 5. And specifically that 24 hours, there wasn't a single journalist who read the Mueller report. They all read this press release from Barr, and news organizations went with it. As I pointed out, New York Times said this is a big boost for Trump's reelection. They hadn't read a single page, and they were still buying into this idea. Well, of course, the Attorney General of the United States would never lie about something like the Russia investigation. Yeah. They still wouldn't accept this notion that everyone in the administration was a pathological liar. And so, by the time the press caught up with the truth of the Mueller report, 3, 5, 7 days later, it was too late. All those headlines, exonerated, exonerated.
And where are
exonerated.
they now, by the way? It's like this news cycle, this just happened Friday, and it's pretty huge, in my opinion, when it is proven now there was collusion and out and out treason with the president. It wasn't that long ago. It was 4 years ago. We can't just go, well, now that, I mean, it's okay. So anyway, but also this, Judd Legum, you retweeted, he said, I don't remember hearing anything about cancel culture when the Dixie Chicks got kicked off country radio for opposing the Iraq war. And you said CDs were actually burned, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and again, the press never asked, what about this drift toward, fascism and white supremacism and radicalism on the right? They always ask, it's insanity, right? How they just they gobble up the right-wing talking points on this stuff, right?
Right. We've talked about this so many times. What does every Beltway news cycle start with? Every morning, it's what are Republicans angry about? What are conservatives angry about?
Right.
So cancel culture takes off, right? That's a thing. That's sweeping the country. Fascism. Oh, you can't talk about fascism. There's not fascism in the United States. That's just, that's exaggerated rhetoric. Why would you talk about that? So it's always about
and they want to take away antitrust, protection from baseball. I mean, everything they do is cancel culture with companies they don't agree with on voter suppression laws. They're just like, now we're
and everything is transactional. They're very upfront about it, with Delta and Coke and these Georgia-based companies that are criticizing them. They're very upfront about it. If you criticize us, we're taking away your tax benefits. I mean, it's just that's cancel culture right there.
And you just said, like Tucker, more folks are feeling free to wave that racist flag. Curious why they feel so emboldened these days. I mean, that's what I always said, Eric. It's not like Trump created racism, but he made it okay for everyone to come out of their hidey hole, and it's okay now to say all this awful stuff in public. And, now they're surprised they have this, America First caucus, the Anglo-Saxon, whatever that thing's about, fatherland something.
Yeah. Well, the Tucker Carlson stuff is really, here's what's interesting. And in the past, when he said something racist and awful, there would be, this advertisers would jump. He would mysteriously go on vacation, let things cool down, and then he'd come back. They don't bother with that anymore because they realize they don't need advertisers for Tucker Carlson's show, because you and I are paying his salary through these cable fees. Comcast and Verizon and all of them are paying Fox News huge fees every month to carry it. That Tucker Carlson could run with no advertisers and they would still make a boatload of money. So that's kind of a new development in the last couple of years. Tucker Carlson feels free to say whatever he wants. White supremacy. Lachlan Murdoch is with him every step of the way, and it is going to get more and more ugly as this goes on.
Yeah. And Eric, your piece, I mean, so important this week because this literally is life and death. It's not, the usual media botches the story, but you did how the media botched the J&J vaccine pause story. It is just, we are in a just once in a whenever pandemic, right? And you just said, unfortunately for Tuesday, this past week's J&J breaking news, crucial context was missing from most of the headlines. Instead of stressing that less than 1 in a million J&J shots had produced the troubling blood clot reaction, the press focused on concerns around the halt and how the move threatens to slow U.S. pandemic response, thus creating the very thing they're reporting on, right?
All right.
I mean, you went through all the headlines and you said it would have been such a simple fix to include 6 cases in each of these headlines, or, quote, extremely rare, in order to give the story crucial factual context. Reading those headlines, people likely assume there were hundreds, if not thousands, of cases that prompted the vaccine pause. The key omission played in the hands of conservatives who work hard to raise doubts about the virus shots. And then you said it was a bit ironic Tuesday to watch reporters repeatedly press White House officials about whether the J&J pause will increase vaccine hesitancy while never addressing the role the press might play in that exact phenomenon. I mean, thank you, right?
Yeah, well, I think there was a bit of, it was bad news. Look, it was the first bad vaccine news really since Biden took over. I argue it wasn't that big a deal. the Biden White House is very clear they have more than enough vaccines, that, it's not going to affect the ratio. But I think the press kind of likes bad news.
Yes.
And Biden had taken the vaccine rollout, which had been a national embarrassment, and turned it into a model for the world. The only headlines were how great this is, how many people are getting vaccinated, how many millions of doses. So here came along this blip, it's a piece of bad news. I think the press kind of like that. I think the press wanted to play that up. They like conflict. It's more interesting. And so they went with, frankly, lots of hysterical headlines.
Yeah.
And then, as I pointed out, they created this sort of hysteria about hesitancy. And then part of their angle was this was going to create hesitancy.
Yeah. Right.
It was not, it was, and as I pointed out, it was so simple. Just to put in each headline, 6 cases causes pause. That's the end of the story.
Yeah.
If people,
and by the way, here's the percentages for smoking. Here's the percentages for birth control pills. Here's the percentages if you get COVID, which is a zillion times more. I saved this for you because I got Chuck Todd, bless his heart.
God.
Tried on some pushback, John Boehner, because of course, John Boehner's, bashing fellow Republicans or people like that. But it's just, of course, at the end of the day, the whole, this white supremacist racism in their party. And of course, as you know, I don't even have to tell you, it's Obama's fault. It was Obama's fault, ultimately. So he let him get away with this on Meet the Press.
I have no idea how this even showed up. I wouldn't call it mainstreamed in our party. But I can
I'm sorry, 13, Sean, 13, or excuse me, 14 is what I wanted. Yeah, here we go.
I wanted to get immigration reform done. President Obama wanted to get it done. But again, every time we'd get ready to move, the president would go out and give some speech, or he'd loosen up some immigration regulation and just kind of set everybody on fire. Yeah. And that's not a prescription for getting things accomplished in the Congress.
Because the black guy did it. Because the president gave a speech, Eric, and that's why there's racism now and the immigration didn't get done. What?
That clip is so important, and it ties into the gun debate. John Boehner's low point of his career was refusing to vote on that immigration bill. It passed with 68 votes in the Senate. Unthinkable today. He would not allow a vote for years because he knew it would pass. And now he goes on this revision book tour and says, it's Obama's fault because he gave a speech. He did the exact same thing on CNN yesterday regarding guns and after Sandy Hook. And he was asked, why didn't you pass? Well, we couldn't come together. We should do it now. Boehner was part of the leadership that made sure no gun laws were passed. And the press blamed Obama for that, too.
Yeah.
He should have given speeches. He was too cocky. He should have offered different gun legislation. I am so sick of this revisionist history. It really drives me crazy. And yes, I understand Boehner is bashing Ted Cruz. We all like that.
Yeah.
But let's not lose sight of the context. He was an awful person when he was in office.
Yeah. Well, let's play 13 now. Just sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt that because what he was talking about, this racism in his party.
I have no idea how this even showed up. I wouldn't call it mainstreamed in our party.
I would.
But I can tell you that this so-called America First caucus is one of the nuttiest things I've ever seen.
Please. Oh, please. Right. Like this just started now out of nowhere. It is mainstream when they go, that's not what Kevin McCarthy goes, it's not what the Republican Party represents. Yes, it is. It's exactly what the Republican Party represents today. Right?
Right. And we've talked about that forever. That has been the defining feature of Trump. He defined, for 4 years, the press kept saying, Republicans are so uncomfortable with Trump. They can't sleep at night. Mitch McConnell is so distraught about what Trump's doing to the Republican Party. They all slept fine because they knew that Trump represented the mainstream Republican Party. He was saying stuff that they weren't, they wouldn't say, but they absolutely knew. He was reflecting the voter base.
Well, and you know how you can tell it's still Trump's party is, I don't mean to be immature, but what is going on with Boehner's face? Blend, do something. His nose is brown and then some parts are orange and what's happening? You are Trump's party.
On the
golf course, but then blend, do something. He looked like he was wearing a brown nose and okay. Something. I'm sorry, Eric. Eric won't participate in this. He's a very listen. Hillary Clinton says Eric Boehlert is essential. He can't be dragged down to this level. Thank you, Eric. We'll see you next week.
Have a great week.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, he was wearing like a brown Groucho glasses, like, right? Something, just a note. You're like, something, do something, blend, for God's sakes. I don't know what's happening.
Please.
Something about Merlot and Sun together is making your face 21 minutes after the hour. Hi, John.
Good morning from the New York Bureau, children. Hi.
Hi, you tweeted why it's almost like, what's that word? Oh, collusion. But can we really call MAGA folks dupes if they enjoy being lied to? Yes, all the Trump is Russia collusion is a hoax. Yeah. All ended up being wrong, John. Who would have thunk?
Yeah, I think it's because our MAGA friends don't understand the difference between an agent and an asset. It's not saying that Trump was actually taking marching orders. It's that Trump was an unwitting dupe, and that Trump himself, it was so dumb that he was able to be an asset for many years. No one's saying he's on a payroll necessarily, except he is. And Vladimir Putin owns $2 billion of his debt. And maybe all those money guys that Mueller decided not to use can finally stretch their muscles a little bit, because
you speak Bible. What is it? Something the cock crows 3 times. Isn't this 3 times treason has been proven now? This is the first treason with Russia. The second impeachment, of course, was Ukraine. Same thing. That was part of the Russian disinformation. And the third time is the insurrection. To explain the thing,
but
isn't that?
The third time the cock crowed, Jesus's friend realized he was a jerk. Trump's friends won't. They're just going to buy more lawyers. That's the
right.
Okay. So we've also, speaking of justice, been talking about the Supreme Court. You said, Thom Cotton, of course, tweeted, packing the Supreme Court would destroy the Supreme Court. The Democrats will do anything for power. You said, but changing the Supreme Court from 9 justices to 8 for a year, lying about the reason so the first black POTUS couldn't get an up or down vote on Merrick Garland, was doing an acceptable thing for GOP power. I'm Thom Cotton, and hypocrisy is my morality. Wags his at history. Yeah, they just make
incredibly dignified, lying about my military career, and I'm here to be angry and get my clip on Fox. He looks like a constipated pencil. Look, here's the deal. We have 9 judges because we have 9 appellate courts. But oh wait, we now have 13 appellate courts, but we didn't prorate with the justices. John Adams changed the number of judges. Jefferson did. He added 2. Andrew Jackson, who is such a genocidal douchebag, Donald Trump put his portrait in the Oval Office. He added 2 more justices. Lots of presidents have done this over the years, and I'll tell you, I've been really swayed. I was really against killing the filibuster. Now I'm for it. I was really against adding judges to the court. Now I'm for it. I don't think it'll happen, but there is nothing in the Constitution that says it has to be 9. And if we're keeping pace with the appellates, we should have 13.
They make up all their own rules anyway, John. You can't, this close to an election, and then they just install one during an election. You can't, I mean, you're absolutely right. They don't care if there's 8 justices, because it's.
They don't care. I mean, Mitch McConnell changed it from 9 to 8 for a year.
Right.
And of the 6 judges that are the conservatives, 5 of them were appointed by presidents who had lost the popular vote. The majority of Americans voted against Bush when he first ran. The majority of Americans voted against Trump both times. So 5 of these 6 are against the will of the people. All 3 of Donald Trump's nominees are totally illegitimate. Gorsuch had a stolen seat, and don't we love how the GOP loves stolen merchandise? Kavanaugh lied under oath. He perjured himself. It's right there for everyone to see. God bless Senator Sheldon Whitehouse for looking into that. And Amy Coney Barrett, I don't really think we need to go too deep into this. They lied to not appoint Merrick Garland with this made-up Biden rule, and then they forgot about that and rushed her through with 8 days when 65 million Americans had already voted. All 3 of Celebrity Apprentice's Supreme Court justices are not valid. So yeah, we got to do it. They're not going to stop cheating. Yeah. So what are we going to do? In the next 50 years, the fascists are still going to ratchet up a lot of wins. Do you want the non-fascists to ratchet up some wins as well?
Yeah.
It's got to get done.
Yeah, absolutely. You were talking about the Capitol. You know, we're in the middle of all these horrible, just police brutality cases, and you said Ashley Babbitt is dead because of Donald Trump's lies. Remember how the blindly obedient Trump supporters denied the insurrectionists were Trump supporters. It's just, I think it's like sometimes it's like the overload of all of the stories together in a news cycle, right? That just gets I mean, someone was saying, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
We've gotten used to that under Donald Trump. Remember the old days when things would happen one at a time? And then under Donald Trump, it was like, you get ratings in news if you have a war or a scandal or a natural disaster. Trump was like having all three at once, and he was ratings crack. And now that he's gone, the media needs to keep the outrage machine going, but we're also more aware because of the pandemic. More people are paying attention to what's going on. It's not like there's more shootings of unarmed Black people. It's just more cameras documenting it. Yeah. It's not like there's more fascist scandals and these charlatans in Congress. We're just paying closer attention to it now.
Right. Brony freak Travis Bone is engaged in a full-on war with Disney freak Chris LaVoy. Has supplanted the vaccine rap wars for the day, and someone just tweeted us a picture of which pony is that, Travis?
That is not an official pony.
Oh, okay. It says, "Back the up, Sprinkle. Today is not the day I will shank you with my horn." Okay.
Oh, wow. Goodness.
Wow. It's getting kind of hectic in here. Okay. Lauren from Iowa says on hating people. Steph, you said this morning you're beginning to hate people. Joining the club a bit late, aren't you? The more people I meet, the more I like my dogs. That's been my motto for years now. Love you, Steph. You're truly great. I can tell by your dog. Yes, my dog is loyal to me. It is not biscuit related at all. It's because I am great.
It's biscuit related.
I think I might have found my future wife on Twitter. Katie tweets, "It's super weird to me that people like to do things that don't involve sitting on the couch with a dog." What's up with those people? I'm just gonna find someone to do that with after COVID. That's the only way my social life will change. Just someone underneath me while I'm underneath Jamie on the couch.
Oh,
bliss. Okay, Karen in Chicago agrees. My schmoopy bear.
Hey.
My schmoop. Hi, Karen.
Hello.
Hi, honey.
Hello, Schmoopy Bear. How are you doing?
I'm schmoopy. Go ahead.
Oh, good. I got into kind of an animated argument or conversation with my kids because they're kind of all about the defund the police thing. And I have to say this. I don't care what we call, it's important what we call